In a distant kingdom, where intrigues and betrayals ran rampant, a young Jewish woman became the key to the salvation of her people. Esther, an ordinary woman, transformed into a queen, but her journey was far from a fairy tale. Imagine being torn from your peaceful life to become part of a palace filled with conspiracies. What drove her to risk everything for those she loved? As the fate of her nation hung in the balance, Esther faced challenges that tested her courage and faith. Have you ever considered the weight of a decision that could change the course of history? In moments of despair, would you have the bravery to speak before a king? The pages of the Bible hold secrets about this heroine who, with cunning and determination, defied norms and prejudices. In a hostile world, her story is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest situations, hope can shine. Prepare to dive into a narrative that reveals not only the life of Esther, but also timeless lessons on faith, love, and courage. In the 5th century BCE, Persia was a vast and diverse empire, where culture and traditions intertwined in fascinating ways. This was a time when power dynamics were quite complex, and the role of women in society was, in many aspects, restricted. While some women of high status could enjoy privileges, most Persian women lived under strict norms and limiting social expectations. Women were often seen as secondary figures, and their voices were rarely heard in political and social decision-making spheres. In this context, the position of women was deeply influenced by religious and cultural issues. Patriarchy dominated, and women were often defined by their relationships with men. However, this does not mean that there was no room for resistance and female influence. The stories of women who managed to defy the norms of the time, like Esther herself, echo through the centuries, showing that even in restrictive societies, courage and cunning can open new possibilities. The Persian society of the 5th century BCE was marked by significant ethnic and religious diversity. Jews, in particular, lived under the shadow of oppression and discrimination, frequently facing hostility and prejudice. The coexistence of different peoples and cultures created a tense environment where loyalty and identity were often debated. This becomes a crucial backdrop for Esther's story, who not only represents her people, but also becomes a bridge between different cultures. The power dynamics at the Persian court were equally intriguing. King Xerxes ruled with a firm hand, but his court was a place full of intrigues and rivalries. The position of a king was not just one of authority, but also of vulnerability, surrounded by advisors and nobles seeking influence. This political complexity becomes a central element in Esther's narrative, as it is in this setting that her decisions and actions will have profound consequences. Therefore, understanding the historical and cultural context in which Esther lived is fundamental to appreciating the depth of her story. The barriers she faced were not only personal, but reflected a system that, in many aspects, devalued the lives and identities of women, especially those belonging to minorities like the Jews. This understanding enriches the narrative and allows us to see Esther not just as a historical figure, but as a symbol of resistance and courage. Esther, a young Jewish woman, was born into an environment already laden with the weight of history and oppression. Her origin, though humble, is marked by a rich and significant heritage. She was the daughter of Abihail, and after the death of her parents, she was raised by her cousin Mordecai, who became a paternal figure in her life. This relationship is fundamental, as Mordecai not only protects her, but also teaches her about the importance of her Jewish identity in a world that frequently marginalizes her. Esther's life changed dramatically when she was chosen to become the queen of King Xerxes. This event was not merely luck, it was a combination of beauty, intelligence, and a destiny that seemed predestined. The selection process for women to join the royal harem was rigorous and involved a series of preparations where Esther stood out. Her beauty and grace captured the king's heart, but her true strength lay in her ability to navigate a world full of challenges and uncertainties. Being a queen in a Persian court was not just a title, it was a strategic role in a power game. Esther, though in an elevated position, was not exempt from risks. The fact that she was Jewish could be a disadvantage, but would also become her greatest weapon. Throughout the narrative, we see how Esther uses her position to influence events and protect her people, showing that courage can arise even from the most unlikely circumstances. The duality of Esther's life is a central theme in her story. She is a woman living between two worlds, that of a Jew in a society that despises her religion, and that of a queen in an empire that sees her as a mere trophy. This tension is palpable and becomes a driving force for her actions. The wisdom she learns from Mordecai and her experiences at the court shape her personality and make her a natural leader. Thus, Esther's life is a narrative of transformation and resilience. From her humble origins to her rise to the throne, she embodies the struggle for identity and the pursuit of justice amid an oppressive context. This journey is not just about becoming a queen, but about discovering her role in a world that often seems to want to silence her voice. Mordecai is a central figure in Esther's narrative, not just as a cousin and guardian, but also as a mentor and advisor. His importance in the story is multifaceted, as he represents the continuity of Jewish tradition and the struggle for identity in a hostile society. From the beginning, Mordecai stands out as a character who understands the weight of choices and the implications of being Jewish in a Persian empire. Mordecai's loyalty to Esther is admirable. He raises her with love and protection, preparing her for the challenges she would face at the court. But his influence goes beyond familial care. He is responsible for instilling courage in Esther, encouraging her not to forget her roots and the importance of her people. This relationship is a testament to the importance of family support in times of crisis and the strength that can be found in unity. When Mordecai discovers Haman's evil plan, he does not hesitate to act. His determination to protect his people becomes a catalyst for Esther. Mordecai sends messages to Esther, reminding her that her position as queen does not exempt her from the responsibility of fighting for her nation. This emotional and moral pressure he exerts on Esther reflects his role as a leader within the Jewish community, showing that even in adversity, a man's voice can inspire courage in a woman. Moreover, Mordecai is also a figure of resistance. He refuses to bow down to Haman, directly challenging authority and prejudice. This attitude is not just a matter of personal pride, but an act of affirmation of Jewish identity in a space that tried to erase it. Mordecai's courage resonates not only in his own life, but also in Esther's, who is driven to act in defense of her people. Therefore, Mordecai is not just a supporting character in Esther's story, he's a protagonist in his own right. His role as a mentor, advisor, and symbol of resistance is fundamental to the unfolding events. Through his influence, he helps shape Esther into a leader who, despite adversity, rises to defend her people and her identity. Haman, the villain of the story, embodies unethical behavior and unbridled ambition. He holds a privileged position at King Xerxes' court, but his dissatisfaction and thirst for power lead him to plot against the Jewish people. Haman's motivation is complex. He feels slighted by Mordecai, who refuses to bow down to him, and this fuels his anger and desire for revenge. Haman believes that by eliminating the Jews, he will not only get rid of Mordecai, but also gain an even stronger and more respected position at the court. To execute his plan, Haman uses manipulative tactics. He convinces King Xerxes that the Jews are a disloyal people who do not follow the empire's laws. With a persuasive speech, he plants the seed of distrust in the king's mind, who, unaware of Haman's true nature, agrees to the extermination of the Jews. This maneuver reveals not only Haman's malice, but also the fragility of royal power, which can be influenced by personal interests and palace intrigues. The extermination plan, which becomes a real death sentence for thousands of people, reflects the social and political tensions of the time. Haman uses a lottery system, known as Purim, to determine the day the Jews would be attacked. This random choice is a symbol of the injustice and arbitrariness that often permeate power decisions. Haman's evil is so evident that throughout the narrative, He becomes an example of what happens when selfishness and ambition override ethics and compassion. The revelation of Haman's plan represents a crucial turning point in the story. It is in this context of despair that Esther, the heroine of the narrative, is called to act. The contrast between Esther's courage and Haman's villainy highlights the moral choices each character must face. While Haman opts for destruction, Esther decides for salvation, not only of her people, but also of the king himself, who is being manipulated. Haman's plan is not just a physical threat, but a metaphor for the dangers of prejudice and intolerance. The story, by exposing Haman's motivations, invites the reader to reflect on the consequences of actions driven by hatred and unbridled ambition. The fight against this oppressive force is what drives the plot and transforms it into a timeless narrative of resistance and bravery. Esther stands out as a figure of courage in a context where vulnerability was the norm for women. By deciding to present herself before King Xerxes without being summoned, Esther risks not only her position, but also her life. This bold action is not just an act of bravery, it is a demonstration of love and loyalty to her people. Esther's decision to defy court norms reveals her understanding of what is at stake and the power she holds as queen. Esther's courage is even more impressive when considering the gravity of the situation. She knows that by approaching the king, she is putting herself at great risk, since Persian law stipulated that any woman who approached the king without invitation could be condemned to death. However, Esther does not hesitate. Her determination to save her people drives her to act, and this courage transforms into a powerful force that shapes the future of many. Moreover, Esther's courage is also reflected in her leadership ability. She not only faces the king, but does so with grace and wisdom. Esther uses her intelligence to articulate her case in a way that the king understands the gravity of the situation. This communication skill is an extension of her courage, showing that bravery is not limited to physical actions, but also involves the ability to influence and persuade. Esther's journey, from a young Jewish woman to the queen of the empire, is marked by challenges that require not only courage, but also strategy and cunning. Her bravery in such a critical moment inspires not only other characters in the story, but also generations of readers who see in her a model to be followed. Esther becomes a symbol of resistance and hope, proving that even in dark times, individual courage can bring about significant changes. Esther's courage teaches us that facing difficulties with determination is an essential characteristic for any leader. Her story is a reminder that in situations of oppression and injustice, the willingness to fight for what is right can be the difference between life and death, not only for an individual, but for an entire community. Esther's bravery echoes through the centuries, inspiring those who face their own battles. Esther's strategy in organizing banquets is a crucial moment in the narrative, filled with symbolism and deep meanings. By inviting King Xerxes and Haman to a banquet, Esther not only creates an opportunity to connect with them, but also establishes an environment conducive to the revelation of her identity and Haman's evil plan. This choice of setting is intelligent. A banquet is an act of hospitality that in the cultures of the time symbolized friendship and respect. During the banquet, Esther demonstrates not only her diplomatic skill, but also her patience. Instead of revealing her secret immediately, she opts to create an atmosphere of anticipation. This gradual build-up of tension serves to emphasize the gravity of the situation her people face. The way Esther manages the revelation is a demonstration of control and strategy. She knows that the right moment is crucial to maximize its impact. When Esther finally reveals her Jewish identity and exposes Haman's plan to the king, the effect is devastating. The revelation not only surprises Xerxes, but also changes the power dynamics. The king, who was previously under Haman's influence, now faces the truth and betrayal. Esther's courage in exposing the truth in such a hostile environment reflects not only her bravery, but also the power of words and revelation. The implications of Esther's decision are profound. The choice to use a banquet as the setting for her revelation emphasizes the importance of communication and dialogue in times of crisis. She not only saves her people, but also creates a space for the truth to be heard and recognized. The banquet thus becomes a symbol of hope and resistance, showing that unity and understanding are fundamental in the fight against oppression. Finally, Esther's banquet and revelation teach us about the importance of strategy in difficult situations. Esther's ability to use diplomacy and hospitality to achieve her goal is a lesson on how wisdom and careful planning can lead to positive outcomes, even in the most challenging situations. Her story is a testament to the power of courage and intelligence, proving that sometimes the best battles are won not only with strength, but with cunning and compassion. The origin of the Purim festival is a story of celebration and gratitude. This event is a tribute to the salvation of the Jewish people from Haman's evil plot to exterminate them. Over the centuries, Purim has become a vibrant and joyful festivity, marked by customs and traditions that involve the entire community. Families gather, dress in costumes, and hold feasts, symbolizing the victory of life over death and hope over oppression. It is a time when unity and solidarity are celebrated, remembering Esther's courage and the people's resilience. The Book of Esther, which narrates this story, is read in its entirety during the festival, and each time Haman's name is mentioned, the attendees make noise to drown it out. This practice not only entertains, but also serves as a way to remember the defeat of evil. Additionally, the giving of food and donations to the needy, known as matanot laevionim, is an essential part of the celebration, reinforcing the idea of community and mutual care. Thus, Purim becomes not just a celebration of survival, but also an opportunity for generosity. Another interesting aspect of Purim is the reading of Mishloach Manot, which involves sending portions of food to friends and neighbors. This practice symbolizes friendship and shared joy, promoting a sense of belonging and connection among people. Moreover, Purim parties are often accompanied by music, dance, and theatrical performances where Esther's story comes to life, reminding everyone of the importance of courage and identity. It is a celebration that transcends time, uniting generations around a common legacy. Purim also carries a profound message about the importance of remembering and telling one's story. The repetition of Esther's narrative and the celebration of the events leading to the Jewish people's salvation reinforce the connection to cultural and religious identity. In times of oppression, remembering these stories can serve as a beacon of hope, showing that even in the darkest situations, there is always the possibility of redemption and triumph. Therefore, the festival is not just a celebration, but a powerful reminder of the strength and resilience of the Jewish people. The celebration of Purim is, in essence, a reaffirmation of life and the fight against oppression. Through rituals and traditions, the Jewish people continue to honor Esther's memory and the importance of fighting for justice and dignity. By celebrating Purim, they not only remember historical events, but also renew their commitment to the values that emerge from this narrative, ensuring that courage and solidarity are never forgotten. Esther's story offers a rich tapestry of ethical and spiritual lessons that resonate to this day. One of the central themes is the importance of identity. Throughout the narrative, Esther is challenged to recognize and embrace her Jewish roots, even in an environment that might represent the denial of her true essence. This aspect of the story reminds us of the relevance of knowing our past and being proud of who we are, regardless of circumstances or external pressures. Esther's courage is another crucial point to be highlighted. Her willingness to risk her life to save her people is an inspiration to many. This act of bravery teaches us that, in times of crisis, courage is not just a virtue, but a necessity. The ability to stand up against injustice, even at great personal risk, is one of the most powerful messages we can extract from this narrative. Esther becomes a symbol of resistance, showing that each of us has the power to make a difference. The fight against oppression is a recurring theme in Esther's story, and by extension in many narratives throughout human history. The way Esther and Mordecai unite to confront Haman and his evil intentions highlights the importance of solidarity and collective action. In times of adversity, the unity among people can be the key to overcoming challenges. This lesson is especially relevant in a world where division and oppression still exist, reminding us that the fight for justice is a shared responsibility. Moreover, Esther's story emphasizes the need for wise and well-thought-out strategies in difficult situations. The way Esther plans her banquets and reveals her identity to the king is an example of how intelligence and cunning can be as valuable as physical strength. In various life situations, the ability to act with prudence and strategy can make the difference between success and failure. This lesson invites us to reflect on the importance of planning and discernment in our own lives. Finally, Esther's story prompts us to reflect on the role of providence and faith in moments of despair. Often, what seems to be an insurmountable obstacle can turn into an opportunity for growth and transformation. The narrative suggests that even in the midst of adversity, there is a greater force guiding us, and that by trusting in our convictions and values, we can find paths to victory. This perspective encourages us to face our own challenges with hope and determination, knowing that light can emerge even in the darkest hours. And now, as we reflect on Queen Esther's story, we are reminded of how courage and faith can transform realities. Esther was not just a young Jewish woman in a palace. She became a heroine, a woman who risked everything for her people. But have you ever wondered what motivated her to act? Was it just love for her people, or was there something deeper in her heart? As we follow Esther's trajectory, we realize that her story is a powerful lesson on the importance of standing up in times of crisis. In her life, we see the struggle between fear and faith, and this leads us to question, how can we today be instruments of change in our communities? Are we ready to listen to our inner voice and act when the situation demands? Esther invites us to reflect on the purpose of each of us. Have you ever wondered what your role is in this grand plan? Let's continue this conversation. In the comments, share your ideas on how we can apply Esther's lessons in our daily lives. Together, we will discover how each of us can make a difference.